It was late on the night of November 3, 2025, when 22-year-old Rebecca Park quietly stepped outside her mother's house in Boone Township, Michigan. She told a relative she was getting picked up, she didn't say by whom, and slipped into the passenger seat of a dark-colored sedan. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. Rebecca wasn't just a young woman hoping for a ride home. She was heavily pregnant. Officials say she was around 38 weeks along, just days away from giving birth to a baby boy. When she vanished, the hopes of a normal delivery and new life vanished with her. Within 24 hours, panic began to grip her family. On the narrow dirt road near her mother's home, the place where she was last seen, investigators found Rebecca's cell phone abandoned and discarded. No wallet, no note, no messages, just a silent phone lying lifeless on a two-track road. Meanwhile, whispers and rumors started to float in and around the tight-knit rural community. Some wondered, out of worry, out of fear, out of confusion, whether she had run away. Others feared the worst. But police cautioned, in a case like this, nothing should be assumed. The claim that she carried around $2,000 in cash, reportedly from a recent family inheritance, only added complexity. If she wanted to avoid electronic tracking, it could be a clue, but it could also be a red herring. The search begins. Because Rebecca was so close to her due date, the sense of urgency was immediate. There was no time to wait. Multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Wexford County Sheriff's Office and the Michigan State Police, launched an intensive search using K-9 units, drones, foot patrols over woods and dirt tracks, all aimed at finding her or any sign of the unborn child. At the same time, local volunteers and neighbors poured in their time and energy, combing the woods, scanning rural roads under flashing lanterns, holding out hope for a sighting, a clue, a sign. On TV news, local reporters appealed to anyone who might have seen something. On social media, worried citizens shared missing person posters and phone numbers, asking for help, for leads, for any glimmer of hope. As days turned into a week, the search dragged on. Hope was starting to crack. No hospital admissions, no births reported locally, no trace of a baby, no confirmed sighting of Rebecca. The dark Michigan woods were cold and unforgiving. Friends and family tried not to show their panic, but it was writ plain in every broadcast plea, every trembling post on social media. Becca, if you're out there, come home. Meanwhile, investigators remained cautious. In public statements, they warned that rumors and speculation about kidnappings, about trafficking, about illegal adoption, threatened to derail the careful work of law enforcement agencies. Until they had proof, they refused to confirm or deny anything. Think about that night again. The quiet road, the house, a pregnant woman getting into a stranger's car. She must have hoped. Maybe this ride would take her somewhere safe, somewhere close to delivery, close to comfort. But the darkness swallowed her trace. Her phone, a symbol of communication and safety, lay discarded, abandoned, cold. No call, no message, nothing. With each passing day, the fear grew. Had someone turned that ride into a trap? Was she still out there, needing help? Or had the unthinkable already happened? Every hour counted. If Rebecca had gone into labor, or if something violent happened, the window for finding her and the baby alive was closing fast. Volunteers pressed on, hopes flickering like weak lanterns in the dark. Official agencies advanced carefully, methodically, but all they were finding were more questions, no answers. And then came an announcement that stunned the community. Search efforts would continue, but with grim warnings. This was more than a missing person case now. It had become something far darker. In living rooms, around dinner tables, behind closed doors, the family held vigil. They remembered Rebecca, 22, pregnant, with dreams of motherhood and a future for her child. They remembered her smile, her conversations, her plans. Now those were memories being dashed against the cold facts of a vanishing. They asked the public, if you saw a blackened sedan creeping down rural Michigan roads, if you heard talking in the night, if you had any scrap of information, come forward. Because in cases like this, Even the smallest clue can mean the difference between tragedy and rescue. Rebecca Park was 22 and 38 weeks pregnant when she disappeared. She was last seen entering a dark vehicle outside her mother's home on the night of November 3rd. Her cell phone was later found discarded on a dirt road near the home. A multi-agency search, law enforcement, and volunteers began immediately. As days passed, fear grew, because there was no birth, no sign of Rebecca, and no trace of her unborn baby. Investigators urged caution. Rumors threatened to derail the case. On November 25th to 22nd nights after that ride into the unknown, the forest that had been searched over and over again was quiet. Mist hung over trees, fallen leaves muffled footsteps. Volunteers and officers trudged the same paths, retracing old ground, hoping for something different. Searches had come up empty for weeks, and then someone stopped. A glimmer, a shape, a body. Would this be the moment when hope returned, or when the worst fears were confirmed? Would this body finally bring answers, or only deeper mystery? The forest was silent. The truth waited in the shadows. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. The cold light of November 25th cut through the quiet forest of Manistee National Forest in northern Michigan. For over 3 weeks, search teams, both official and volunteers, had combed the woods, scanned dirt tracks, and canvassed rural roads near Boone Township where Rebecca Park disappeared. Hope had hung by a thread. Then came the call. A body had been found. It was not law enforcement who made the grim discovery, but a citizen search party. Among them, people driven by fear, by love, by desperation. And one of those people recognized the figure lying among leaves and trees. The searcher later told reporters, "It was Rebecca." By 2:16 p.m., deputies from the Wexford County Sheriff's Office and agents from Michigan State Police had secured the scene. The forest, once a backdrop to a frantic search, now held something far darker. A few days later, on November 30th, officials confirmed. The body was indeed Rebecca Park's. The result came after an autopsy, which identified her remains beyond doubt. But that confirmation brought little relief. Worse, the autopsy also revealed a devastating truth. The baby she had been carrying, full term, expected any day, was not with her body. There was no newborn at the scene. Even after heavy search efforts, law enforcement and crime labs found no evidence of a newborn. The absence of a baby shook communities and investigators, but it also raised urgent questions. Was the baby ever born? If yes, where is that child now? The official cause of death remains unreleased. Authorities say that at this time they cannot confirm or rule out foul play. The investigation remains active. Within hours after the body was found, authorities began making arrests. First, her fiancé, Richard Lee Fowler, who was booked into the Wexford County Jail late November 25th. Shortly afterward, in the early hours of November 26th, her sister, Kimberly Park, was also taken into custody. But here's the critical detail. None of the charges filed have been publicly tied directly to Rebecca's death or to the missing baby. Instead, Fowler faces 2 counts of methamphetamine delivery, a drug trafficking offense, and is classified as a habitual offender. His bond was set at $1 million. Kimberly is charged with tampering with evidence, lying to police, and filing a false felony report. Her bond was set at $750,000. Authorities have said that because the case is still active, the information they can release is extremely limited. That silence, from pensions, police, prosecutors, has left more questions than answers. For family, for a community, for those who had searched the woods, who had combed dirt roads and held flickering hope, the discovery was a nightmare realized. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile reality. A young mother gone, a baby missing, no sign of what happened. Rumors began to swirl, but investigators warned that unverified theories could hamper the case. Still, the search didn't end. Even after a body, even after identification, authorities continued the hunt, this time for the unborn child. Multiple agencies have joined the effort. Wexford County Sheriff's Office, Michigan State Police, local law enforcement, and crime lab units. Public appeals were relaunched. A tip line was opened. Offers of reward reportedly remained or were reoffered for credible information, anything that might lead to the baby or to justice for Rebecca. If Rebecca's body was found and confirmed, and yet there was no baby, where is that newborn? Was the baby born alive? If yes, is the child in someone's care? Hidden? Trafficked? Did anything violent happen to Rebecca? If so, will the autopsy reveal it? Or is the passage of time and environmental exposure complicating the forensic results? Why were her fiancé and sister arrested so soon after the discovery? And why on unrelated charges? What do those arrests mean for the larger investigation? With no official explanation yet, how long will the public and family remain in limbo? Will we ever get the full truth? The discovery of Rebecca's body marked a tragic turning point. What began as a missing person case flipped into a death investigation and a desperate search for a missing baby. But even in grief, uncertainty lingers. With few details released and so many unknowns, the case remains very much alive. Officials have cautioned that releasing incomplete or speculative information could jeopardize justice. But for those waiting, every day without answers is another day of pain. As investigators dig deeper into cell phone records, into property, into relationships, the public must remain patient, vigilant, and watchful for truth. Because in cases like this, where love, loss, and unanswered questions collide, only one thing matters more than speculation: solid evidence. A young woman was found dead in a forest. Her unborn child, nowhere to be seen. Loved ones have been arrested, but not for murder or abduction. Instead, for unrelated offenses. The baby remains missing. The cause of death remains unannounced. Investigators remain tight-lipped. So now the question that echoes in the cold Michigan air. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. When the body discovered on November 25th was identified as Rebecca Park on November 29th, the tone of the case shifted from search and rescue to crime investigation. The confirmation came via autopsy and triggered urgent concern not only about how she died, but also about the fate of the baby she was days away from delivering. According to the autopsy report released by authorities, Rebecca was no longer pregnant when she was found. In other words, at the moment of death, or at least by the time of her remains, there was no evidence she was carrying a child. That revelation sent shockwaves through the community. If she was 38 weeks pregnant at disappearance and then found dead but not pregnant, what happened to that baby? The newborn was nowhere to be found at the scene. Local law enforcement, including Wexford County Sheriff's Office and the Michigan State Police, publicly acknowledged the missing baby is now the center of their investigation. They appealed for tip-line calls from anyone with information about the infant's whereabouts. But beyond that, authorities have withheld many details. They have not released the cause of death, and they remain silent on whether there were signs of trauma, evidence of a birth, or other forensic clues. Barely hours after the body was found, arrests began. On November 25th, the same day as the body's discovery, Richard Lee Fowler, Rebecca's fiancé, was booked into the Wexford County Jail. The following early morning, Kimberly Park, Rebecca's sister, was taken into custody. But the charges? They're not directly tied to Rebecca's death or her missing baby. At least, not publicly. Instead, Fowler is charged with drug offenses. Specifically, 2 counts of methamphetamine delivery, and he's listed as a habitual offender. Because of his criminal history, the potential consequences are severe. His bond is set at $1 million. Kimberly faces charges of tampering with evidence, lying to police, and filing a false report of a felony. Her bond is set at $750,000. Court records show that if either posts bond, they might be placed under GPS monitoring, and hearings have been scheduled. Yet as of now, no murder charges, no kidnapping or child endangerment charges, no official link between these arrests and how Rebecca died or where the baby is. Investigators say the matter remains active. In the days after the tragic confirmation, some of Rebecca's family members, particularly her adoptive mother, Stephanie Park, made public statements. She described Rebecca as a loving person who, despite struggles, deserves to be remembered as the sweet girl she was. Stephanie said the family stayed silent initially to avoid interference with the investigation, but now they want Rebecca's story told and hope for closure, especially for her children. According to reports, Rebecca already had 2 young sons from previous relationships. The missing newborn would have been another child in her care. The family also urged anyone with knowledge, no matter how small, to come forward. The sheriff's office listed a tip line number for leads. Body found on November 25th in Manistee National Forest identified as Rebecca Park. Autopsy indicates she was not pregnant when found. Baby is missing. Her fiancé and sister are jailed on charges unrelated to murder/abduction. Family urges tips. Multi-agency search ongoing. Cause of death has not been released. No public confirmation of trauma or foul play. It is unclear whether she delivered the baby before death, whether newborn remains exist, or whether infant was taken alive. It remains unknown if they are suspects in her death or the baby's disappearance. No murder charges yet. No public leads on the infant's whereabouts or whether the infant is alive. Authorities say they don't yet have enough evidence to tie suspects to the death or to the missing newborn. Releasing charges prematurely could jeopardize a future case, especially if the evidence is circumstantial or still being processed. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. That silence, meant to protect the integrity of the investigation, has fueled frustration among the family and the community. Beyond the headlines and legal filings is a family struggling to understand. Rebecca's adoptive mother spoke of loss, of a daughter whose future and future baby disappeared. Her older children, young boys, are now without their mother. The missing baby, if alive, is without a mother too. Forensic analysis on childbirth signs, trauma, foul play, digital phone records, location data, re-interviews with family and witnesses, public tips, especially about the baby. Rebecca Park's death is confirmed. Her baby is missing. 2 people are jailed, but not for murder, not for abduction. Autopsy says she was not pregnant when found. So the question stands, is this going to become a homicide case, or will the truth stay buried? As of Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, the investigation took another major turn with 2 additional arrests, bringing the total number of people jailed in connection with the case to 4. Courtney Bartholomew, Rebecca's biological mother, was arrested on November 30th, 2025. Brad Bartholomew, Rebecca's stepfather, was arrested on December 1st, 2025. Their arraignments were scheduled for Monday, but postponed until December 2nd to allow prosecutors time to finalize the criminal complaint. Bond has been denied for both at the prosecutor's request. Authorities confirm the arrests are directly connected to the case, though specific charges have not yet been publicly released. A newly disclosed search warrant reveals investigators have shown interest in potential human remains and suspected burial sites. It has not been confirmed whether these findings involve Rebecca, the missing infant, or an unrelated matter, despite intensifying operations involving Wexford County Sheriff's Office, Michigan State Police, FBI. There is still no sign of the newborn. Authorities have not released Rebecca's cause of death, citing the ongoing investigation and the need to preserve the integrity of future prosecution. And as always, you've been watching True Crime Story Vault, where every story is told with facts, empathy, and respect for those who can no longer speak for themselves. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button and comment your thoughts below. Until next time, remember, the truth is never buried.